What if I told you there's a place on Earth, a massive ancient structure, that could rewrite human history as we know it? A place that some believe is a lost city, a Japanese Atlantis, while others dismiss it as a mere trick of nature. Today, we're diving deep into the waters off the coast of Japan to explore one of the most baffling and controversial underwater mysteries of our time, the Yonaguni Monument. It all started in 1986. A local diver named Tihachiro Aratake was scouting new locations for hammerhead shark watching tours near the island of Yonaguni, the southernmost point of Japan. Imagine his surprise when, about 25 meters below the surface, he stumbled upon something truly monumental. It wasn't a reef, and it wasn't a random pile of rocks. It was a colossal, stepped pyramid-like structure, stretching over 50 meters long and 20 meters wide. It had what looked like giant terraces, sharp, right-angled corners, and smooth, flat surfaces. It was as if someone had carved a mountain. Aratake was stunned. He circled the formation, his mind racing. Could this be man-made? The discovery was so mind-boggling that for a while he kept it to himself, thinking no one would believe him. But the image of the underwater monolith was seared into his mind. He knew he had found something extraordinary. News of Aratake's discovery eventually reached the academic world, and it was Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus, who would become the monument's most prominent and passionate advocate. Kimura has spent over 2 decades and more than 100 dives meticulously mapping and studying the site. And what he claims to have found is nothing short of revolutionary. He believes the Yonaguni Monument is not a natural formation, but the ruins of a 5,000-year-old city submerged by a massive earthquake and tsunami. If he's right, this would predate the Egyptian pyramids by thousands of years, completely upending our understanding of early civilization. What evidence does Kimura present? Let's take a virtual dive and look at the specifics. The main structure, which many call the monument, features a series of distinct 90-degree angles and what appear to be carved stairways. One of the most famous features is a section known as the Turtle, a rock formation that, with a little imagination, looks remarkably like a giant sea turtle. Nearby, there are smaller, separate structures that Kimura and his team have identified as a potential stadium, a castle, and even a triumphal arch. They've also pointed out what they believe are carvings, or petroglyphs, on the rock faces, including marks that resemble animals and human faces. One particularly intriguing feature is what looks like a drainage channel, which seems to serve no purpose in a natural, underwater environment. Kimura argues that the concentration of so many unusual features in one place makes a natural origin highly improbable. It's too organized, too geometric. He suggests that these are not just rocks. They are architecture. But here's where the story gets complicated. For every piece of evidence Kimura presents, there's a counter-argument from mainstream geology. Many geologists, including prominent figures like Robert Schoch, who is famous for his work on the Great Sphinx of Giza, have visited the site, and their conclusion is quite different. They argue that the Yonaguni Monument is a completely natural phenomenon. The region is known for its high seismic activity and strong ocean currents. The rock itself is sandstone, which tends to fracture along straight planes when subjected to tectonic stress. Geologists point out that perfectly straight lines and right angles are not exclusive to human craftsmanship. Nature can and does create them. Think of the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, with its hexagonal basalt columns. It looks man-made, but it's entirely natural. Schoch and others contend that the so-called steps are simply horizontal bedding planes in the sandstone, and the walls are vertical joints and fractures caused by tectonic uplift. The strong currents in the area could have easily eroded the softer rock, leaving behind the harder, more angular structures we see today. What about the carvings? Skeptics say they are just natural scratches and erosional marks on the rock surface. It's a classic case of pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see familiar patterns, like faces or animals, in random shapes. So is it an ancient city or a geological wonderland? The debate rages on. Let's talk about the age. If the monument is man-made, it would have to have been built on dry land and then submerged. Geologists estimate that the area was last above sea level during the most recent ice age, over 10,000 years ago. This date is crucial. If Kimura is right, and this is a city built 10,000 years ago, it means a sophisticated stone-working civilization existed long before we thought possible. At that time, according to mainstream archaeology, humans were largely hunter-gatherers, living in small, nomadic tribes. They weren't supposed to be building massive stone cities. This would force us to completely rethink the timeline of human development. It would be a discovery on par with finding a smartphone in an Egyptian tomb. It just doesn't fit the established narrative. This is why many archaeologists are hesitant to accept the man-made theory. There's a lack of supporting evidence. For a city of this supposed complexity, you would expect to find other artifacts. Pottery, tools, bones, the everyday objects of human life. So far, despite extensive searching, very few, if any, definitive man-made tools or artifacts have been recovered directly from the main monument site. Without this kind of corroborating evidence, the claim of a lost civilization remains just that, a claim. The official position of the Japanese government's Agency for Cultural Affairs is that the site is not an important cultural property, and they have not conducted their own research or conservation work there. This official skepticism adds another layer to the mystery. But the story doesn't end there. Believers in the lost city theory often point to local legends and folklore. On Yonaguni Island, there are old tales of a ghost island and a great tsunami that washed away a coastal city long ago. Could these be fragmented memories of a real historical event, passed down through generations? It's a tantalizing thought. The idea of a lost civilization, a Pacific Atlantis, captures the imagination. It speaks to our deep-seated curiosity about our own past and the possibility that there are still great secrets hidden from us. So where do we stand today? The Yonaguni Monument remains an enigma, caught in a fascinating tug-of-war between geology and archaeology, between scientific skepticism and romantic belief. Is it a breathtaking natural formation, a testament to the power of tectonic forces and erosion? Or is it the silent, submerged remnant of a civilization so ancient it defies our history books? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Some have proposed a terraforming theory, that the site was a natural formation that was then modified and enhanced by ancient people. This could explain the geometric features without requiring the construction of a whole city from scratch. Ultimately, without more conclusive evidence, the secret of Yonaguni remains locked beneath the waves. It challenges us to question what we think we know about the ancient world. It's a reminder that our planet still holds profound mysteries, and that sometimes the most incredible discoveries are made by accident, by a lone diver looking for sharks. Beneath the waves, off the coast of Japan's southernmost island, lies a secret that challenges our understanding of the ancient world. A colossal structure submerged in the depths, waiting for centuries to be found. This is the story of the Yonaguni Monument, a mystery that has baffled scientists and explorers for decades. Is it a lost city, a relic of a forgotten civilization? Or is it simply a spectacular, yet entirely natural trick of geology? Join us as we dive deep into the ocean to uncover the truth. Our journey begins in 1986. A local diver named Kihachiro Aratake was scouting new locations for hammerhead shark watching tours off the coast of Yonaguni Island. As he navigated the clear blue waters, something truly astonishing came into view. Rising from the seabed was a gigantic monolithic structure. It was immense, spanning nearly the length of a football field and standing as tall as a 10-story building. But it wasn't just the size that was shocking. It was the shape. The structure was composed of massive terraced platforms with sharp 90-degree angles, straight lines, and what appeared to be carved steps. It looked undeniably man-made. Aratake was stunned. He knew he had stumbled upon something extraordinary. News of his discovery quickly spread, attracting geologists, archaeologists, and adventurers from around the globe. They descended into the depths to see this underwater enigma for themselves. The main structure, nicknamed the Turtle for a formation that resembles a giant sea turtle, is just one part of a larger complex. Divers have identified other distinct features spread across the seafloor. There's a formation called the Triangle Pool, with two large, mysterious holes at its edge. There are what look like walls, pillars, and even a road-like pathway circling the main monument. One of the most compelling features is a section that looks exactly like a grand staircase, climbing up the side of the stone mass. How could nature carve something so precise, so geometric? This is where the great debate begins. The first and most sensational theory is that the Yonaguni Monument is an artificial structure, the ruins of a lost city from a prehistoric civilization. Proponents of this idea, led by Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus, have spent years mapping the site. Kimura claims to have identified features that are impossible to explain through natural processes. He points to markings that he believes are ancient script or carvings, formations that resemble animal statues, and the symmetrical, organized layout of the entire site. According to Kimura's theory, this wasn't just a random collection of rocks. It was a planned city, complete with a castle, a stadium, and a complex network of roads and waterways. He suggests it was built by a sophisticated civilization during the last ice age over 10,000 years ago. At that time, sea levels were much lower, and the area where the monument now sits would have been dry land. Then, as the ice caps melted and the seas rose, this magnificent city was swallowed by the ocean, becoming a legend whispered through time, an Atlantis of the East. This timeline would make the Yonaguni civilization older than the ancient Egyptians or Sumerians, completely rewriting the history of human innovation and architecture. It's a breathtaking idea that a highly advanced society existed and vanished, leaving behind only this silent underwater testament to their existence. But for every argument that it's man-made, there's a compelling counter-argument from the world of geology. The second major theory is that the Yonaguni Monument is a purely natural formation. Geologists who support this view, like Dr. Robert Schoch of Boston University, argue that the monument's features, while impressive, can be explained by natural geological processes. The rock itself is sandstone, a type of sedimentary rock that naturally tends to break along straight plains, creating sharp angles and flat surfaces. This process is known as jointing. Schoch argues that the powerful ocean currents in this region, combined with millennia of erosion and seismic activity from the area's frequent earthquakes, could have easily sculpted the sandstone into the shapes we see today. The so-called steps could be natural terraces formed as layers of rock eroded at different rates. The walls could be vertical fractures in the stone, and the roads could be channels carved by currents. From this perspective, our human tendency to see patterns and faces in random shapes, a phenomenon called pareidolia, is what makes us interpret these natural formations as artificial. We see a staircase because our brains are wired to recognize staircases. To these scientists, the monument is a magnificent example of nature's artistry, not human hands. So, who is right? The evidence for both sides is compelling. On one hand, the sheer scale and geometric precision are hard to ignore. The 90-degree angles, the parallel lines, the staircase-like formations, they all seem too perfect to be accidental. If you were to design a monument, it might look a lot like this. Furthermore, stone tools and other potential artifacts have reportedly been found in the vicinity, though their direct connection to the main structure is still debated. The idea of a lost civilization captures the imagination, offering a glimpse into a forgotten chapter of our own story. On the other hand, the geological explanation is scientifically sound. Sandstone does indeed fracture in this way, and the region is a hotbed of tectonic activity and strong currents. There are no definitive tool marks on the stones, the kind you would expect to see from ancient builders. And while Professor Kimura has identified many features, other scientists examining the same evidence see only natural rock formations. The scientific community remains deeply divided, and without a smoking gun, a clear, indisputable artifact or carving, the skeptics hold firm ground. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Some have proposed a terraforming theory. This suggests that the monument started as a natural formation, which was then modified and enhanced by ancient people. They might have taken the basic naturally occurring terraces and carved them further, shaping them into more defined steps and platforms for ritual or practical purposes. This would explain both the natural appearance of the base rock and the seemingly artificial details. It's an elegant compromise, blending the awe of nature with the ingenuity of our ancestors. But for now, the Yonaguni Monument keeps its secrets. It rests in the silent, blue world, a Rorschach test for all who see it. Is it a wonder of nature, or the last remnant of a world we never knew existed? Every diver who descends to its depths, every scientist who studies its maps, is looking at the same set of facts but seeing a different story. The monument doesn't offer easy answers. Instead, it offers a question, a profound and tantalizing mystery that echoes from the deep. What really lies beneath the waves of Yonaguni? The final answer may still be waiting to be discovered, buried not just under the water, but under the sands of time. The ocean is a vast and mysterious place, and it seems it's not done revealing its wonders. What if I told you there's a massive, pyramid-like structure submerged off the coast of Japan, and it might be older than the pyramids of Giza, older than Stonehenge, older than any known civilization? Today, we diving deep into the ocean to explore one of the most baffling underwater mysteries of our time, the Yonaguni Monument. Is it the remnant of a long-lost Pacific civilization, or just a spectacular trick of nature? Let's find out. Our story begins in 1986. A local diver named Kihachiro Aratake was exploring the waters off Yonaguni Island, the southernmost island of Japan. He was looking for a new spot to watch hammerhead sharks when he stumbled upon something truly mind-boggling. Rising from the seabed was a colossal structure, a monolithic giant stretching about 50 meters long and 20 meters wide. It looked like a giant stepped pyramid with immense terraces, flat surfaces, and sharp, straight edges. It was so perfectly geometric that it seemed almost impossible for it to be natural. News of the discovery spread like wildfire, capturing the imagination of researchers, adventurers, and dreamers around the globe. This wasn't just some random pile of rocks. The main feature, often called the turtle, looks like a stepped pyramid. It has broad, flat terraces, towering vertical walls that appear almost perfectly carved, and distinct 90-degree angles. There are features that have been nicknamed the Loop Road, the main terrace, and even what some describe as a giant carved face, similar to the moai on Easter Island. It truly looks like an ancient city plaza, frozen in time and swallowed by the sea. The precision of the lines and the sheer scale of the structure immediately sparked a fierce debate that continues to this day. Was this made by human hands, or is it an extraordinary natural wonder? Let's dive into the man-made theory first, because this is where things get really exciting. The biggest champion of this idea is Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus. For over 2 decades, he has dedicated himself to studying the monument, conducting countless dives and mapping its intricate features. After extensive research, Professor Kimura concluded that Yonaguni is unequivocally an artificial structure, a remnant of a prehistoric civilization that vanished beneath the waves. He points to several key pieces of evidence. First, the incredible symmetry and precision. He argues that the sharp angles, straight lines, and parallel formations are highly unlikely to be the result of natural erosion. Nature tends to create curves and irregular shapes, not giant, clean-cut steps. He identified features that he believes are man-made, such as what appear to be post holes for supporting structures, a stone quarry mark, and even carvings that resemble animals. He also discovered smaller, separate structures nearby that look like smaller temples or buildings, all connected by what could be ancient roads. But here's the most jaw-dropping part of his theory. Based on geological data and the estimated sea level rise, Professor Kimura believes the Yonaguni Monument was built when this area was above water. And when was that? At least 10,000 years ago, during the last ice age. If he's right, this would completely rewrite our understanding of human history. The first known civilizations, like those in Mesopotamia and Egypt, emerged around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. A 10,000-year-old monument would mean that a highly advanced, organized society existed thousands of years before we ever thought possible. Professor Kimura calls this hypothetical culture the Jomon civilization, suggesting they were the ancestors of the historical Jomon people of Japan. He envisions a sophisticated society capable of large-scale stone construction. A society that built this massive ceremonial or religious center before a cataclysmic earthquake or a rapid rise in sea levels submerged their world forever. It's a compelling narrative, straight out of an epic story, a real-life Atlantis in the Pacific. Think about it, a civilization with the knowledge and technology to build on this scale, existing in a time we once considered primitive. It challenges everything we've been taught in history class. However, not everyone is convinced. In fact, many mainstream geologists and archaeologists strongly disagree with Professor Kimura. This brings us to the natural formation theory. The most prominent voice on this side of the debate is Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University, who also famously studied the Sphinx in Egypt. After diving at the site himself, Dr. Schoch came to a very different conclusion. He believes the Yonaguni Monument is a purely natural formation. So, how could nature create something that looks so artificial? The answer, according to Schoch and other geologists, lies in the specific properties of the sandstone in this region. The rock at Yonaguni is what's known as cross-bedded sandstone, which means it has many parallel layers. This type of rock naturally tends to break along these planes, creating straight, sharp edges. He argues that the region is also tectonically very active, prone to earthquakes. The intense and consistent ocean currents, combined with seismic activity, could have fractured and eroded the rock over millennia, carving out the step-like terraces and flat surfaces we see today. Schock explains that what appear to be man-made walls are simply natural vertical fractures. The roads are channels where looser rock has been washed away by currents, and the post holes are just potholes created by swirling water and pebbles. He describes the monument as a classic example of geofact, a natural geological feature that looks man-made but isn't. He points out that similar rectangular, terraced formations can be found in other underwater locations around the world. Essentially, he argues that we are seeing patterns where there are none, a phenomenon known as pareidolia, where our brains are wired to see familiar shapes like faces or structures in random formations. The scientific community is largely split, but many tend to lean towards the natural formation theory, citing a lack of definitive, irrefutable evidence of tool marks or other human modifications on the rocks. While Professor Kimura has presented photos of what he calls carvings, critics say they are just natural scratches and erosional features. Without a smoking gun, a clear, undeniable artifact or tool mark, the man-made theory remains just that, a theory. This leaves us in a fascinating state of limbo. On one hand, you have the tantalizing possibility of a lost supercivilization, a Mu, or Lemuria of the Pacific, that pushes back the dawn of human ingenuity by thousands of years. The structure's appearance is so striking, so architectural, that it's hard for our minds to accept it as a mere coincidence of nature. The idea that our ancestors were more advanced than we ever imagined is a powerful and exciting one. On the other hand, the scientific explanation of natural geological processes is logical and well-reasoned. It cautions us against jumping to fantastic conclusions and reminds us that Mother Nature is an incredible artist, capable of creating wonders that can easily fool the human eye. The debate itself is a perfect example of how science works. Theories are proposed, challenged, and tested. So what's the verdict? The truth is, the mystery of the Yonaguni Monument is far from solved. It remains one of the world's most captivating enigmas. Is it a testament to a forgotten chapter of human history, or a stunning display of nature's power? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Some have suggested a terraforming theory, where humans might have taken a natural formation and enhanced or modified it for their own purposes. This could explain both the natural geological features and the seemingly artificial elements. Until more conclusive evidence is found, perhaps a confirmed artifact, a clear tool mark, or an ancient human settlement nearby, the debate will rage on. The Yonaguni Monument will continue to be a source of wonder, speculation, and inspiration. It forces us to question what we think we know about our past, and to keep an open mind about the incredible secrets that might still be hidden in the depths of our oceans. What do you think? Are you on Team Kimura, believing in a lost world, or Team Schock, trusting in the power of nature? Imagine diving into the crystal-clear waters off the coast of Japan. The year is 1987. A local diver, Hihachiro Aratake, is exploring a new area, looking for hammerhead sharks. But instead of marine life, he stumbles upon something that will baffle scientists and historians for decades to come. Submerged beneath the waves, he sees a colossal, monolithic structure. What he found is now known as the Yonaguni Monument, or Japan's Atlantis. This thing is absolutely massive. We're talking about a structure over 165 feet long and 65 feet wide, rising from the seabed. It's a series of enormous stone blocks, some standing vertically, others laid horizontally, forming what looks like a grand stepped pyramid. This discovery immediately sparked one of the most intriguing debates in modern archaeology. Is this a lost city built by an ancient civilization, or is it simply a bizarre trick of nature? Today, we read diving deep into the mystery of the Yonaguni Monument to explore both sides of this incredible story. Let's start with the most captivating theory, that Yonaguni is a man-made relic of a long-lost civilization. The biggest champion of this idea is Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus in Japan. He has spent years diving at the site, meticulously mapping and studying its features. Professor Kimura is convinced that this is not a natural formation. He points to what he calls undeniable evidence of human craftsmanship. First, there's the main structure itself, often called the monument. It has a distinctly pyramidal shape, with a series of terraces and steps that look far too precise to be random. The lines are remarkably straight, and the angles are incredibly sharp, some forming perfect right angles. If you look closely at images and dive footage, you'll see what appear to be carved stairs, archways, and even formations that resemble walls. One specific area, dubbed the Turtle, looks uncannily like a giant sea turtle carved from stone. Professor Kamura has identified other features that support the man-made theory. He describes what looks like a loop road encircling the main structure and even drainage channels cut into the rock. He argues that these features are complex and organized, suggesting a level of planning and construction far beyond the capabilities of nature. According to his research, this isn't just one structure, but a complex of buildings, including what might be a castle, a stadium, and connecting roads. It's a whole submerged city. If this is true, how old is it? Proponents of the man-made theory date the monument to at least 5,000 years ago, based on the age of stalactites found in nearby underwater caves that they believe sank at the same time as the city. Some even push the date back to 10,000 BC. If that's the case, the Yonaguni Monument would predate the Great Pyramids of Giza and Stonehenge by thousands of years. It would completely rewrite our understanding of early human history, suggesting that a sophisticated stone-working civilization existed long before we ever thought possible. The story goes that this city was once on dry land, thriving during the last ice age when sea levels were much lower. Then a catastrophic event, perhaps a massive earthquake or a sudden sea level rise, plunged the entire city beneath the waves, where it remained hidden for millennia until its rediscovery in 1987. It's an incredible, almost cinematic story, one that captures the imagination and makes us wonder what other secrets our oceans might be hiding. The idea of a Japanese Atlantis is thrilling, but it's not the only explanation. Now let's look at the other side of the coin, the natural formation theory. As compelling as the idea of a lost city is, many geologists and archaeologists remain highly skeptical. They argue that what we see at Yonaguni is a spectacular, but entirely natural geological phenomenon. The primary proponent of this view is Dr. Robert Schoch, a professor of natural science at Boston University. After diving at the site himself, he came to a very different conclusion than Professor Kimura. Dr. Schoch points out that the monument is made of sandstone, a type of sedimentary rock. A key characteristic of sandstone is that it tends to break along straight planes, a process called natural fracturing. This means it can naturally form sharp geometric shapes that look deceptively man-made. According to this theory, the steps and terraces are simply layers of rock that have been exposed and weathered over time. The straight lines and right angles? They read the result of natural fault lines and tectonic activity in a region that is very geologically active. Japan sits on the Ring of Fire, after all. The constant movement of the Earth's crust, combined with strong ocean currents and erosion, could easily have sculpted the rock into the forms we see today. Skeptics also argue that the monument is still physically connected to the larger rock mass of the island. If it were a constructed site, you would expect to see separate, quarried blocks that were moved into place. Instead, it appears to be carved from a single massive piece of bedrock. The so-called walls are just vertical rock faces that have broken away, and the stairs are horizontal layers that have eroded at different rates. What about the other features, like the turtle or the supposed faces? Geologists explain this through a phenomenon called pareidolia, which is our brain's tendency to see familiar patterns like faces or animals in random shapes. We see faces in clouds, a man in the moon, and perhaps a turtle in a rock formation. They argue that while the shapes are intriguing, they lack the clear, definitive tool marks that would prove human intervention. Without a single undisputed artifact found at the site, no pottery, no tools, no bones, the evidence for a civilization remains purely circumstantial. So where does that leave us? We have two compelling yet completely opposing theories. On one hand, we have the tantalizing possibility of a lost, prehistoric city that could reshape human history. The structure's scale, its geometric precision, and the organized layout are all powerful arguments for human design. It's hard to look at the images and not feel a sense of awe and wonder, and to believe that something so ordered couldn't possibly be an accident of nature. On the other hand, the geological explanation is scientifically sound and elegant in its simplicity. Nature is a powerful artist, capable of creating incredible wonders that can easily fool the human eye. The properties of sandstone, combined with the region's intense geological activity and the erosive power of the ocean, provide a plausible, non-human explanation for everything we see at the Yonaguni Monument. The debate is far from over. Dives continue to happen, and new data is always being collected. Perhaps one day, a diver will find that one definitive artifact, a tool, an inscription, something undeniably man-made that will settle the question once and for all. Or perhaps advanced scanning technology will reveal that the internal structure of the rock is completely natural, closing the book on the lost city theory. Until then, the Yonaguni Monument remains one of the world's most captivating unsolved mysteries. Off the coast of Japan, beneath the waves of the East China Sea, lies a mystery that challenges our understanding of the ancient world. A massive terraced structure known as the Yonaguni Monument. Its sheer scale and geometric precision have baffled scientists and historians for decades. The central question is as compelling as it is profound. Are we looking at a bizarre act of nature, or the sunken ruins of a civilization lost to time? A Japanese Atlantis? Join us as we dive deep into the heart of this enigma, exploring the evidence for and against, and try to unravel the truth hidden beneath the ocean. First, let's explore the scientific perspective. Many geologists argue that the Yonaguni Monument is a completely natural phenomenon. The prevailing theory suggests that what we see are the results of powerful geological forces playing out over millions of years. The monument is made of sandstone and mudstone from the Miocene epoch, a type of rock known for fracturing along straight, parallel planes. This is a key point. Think of it like a block of wood. When you split it, you often get straight edges. Geologists believe this is what happened here on a colossal scale. They point to the region's intense seismic activity. This part of the world is a hotbed of tectonic movement, sitting right on the Pacific Ring of Fire. Earthquakes and underwater landslides could have easily caused large sections of rock to shear off, creating the step-like terraces and flat surfaces we see. The sharp 90-degree angles? Proponents of the natural formation theory say this is a classic example of jointing, where fractures in the rock naturally form at right angles. They'll show you similar formations on land, like the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, where hexagonal basalt columns were formed by cooling lava, creating an illusion of man-made design. Furthermore, they argue that the currents in this area are incredibly strong. Over thousands of years, the constant flow of water, sand, and sediment would act like a natural sandblaster, eroding the softer parts of the rock and leaving behind the harder, more defined structures. It's a process of erosion that could carve out channels and terraces, mimicking the appearance of streets and walls. So, from this viewpoint, the monument is simply a geological curiosity. A stunning but entirely natural underwater landscape shaped by tectonics and erosion. It's a compelling case, grounded in established geological principles. But it's far from the only explanation. Now, let's flip the coin and consider the theory that has captured the imagination of so many, that the Yonaguni Monument is man-made, a relic of a forgotten advanced civilization. When you look at the evidence, it's easy to see why. The structure is vast, about 100 meters long and 25 meters high. Its most prominent feature is a massive rectangular platform with incredibly sharp, defined edges and perfect right angles. It looks less like a random rock formation and more like the foundation of a huge building, and it's not just one platform. Divers have identified features that look uncannily, like wide, deliberate staircases, straight roads, and even a retaining wall. One section, known as the Loop Road, appears to be a path that winds around the main structure. These aren't just vague shapes. They are consistent, geometric, and organized in a way that suggests intelligent design and purpose. If nature created this, it was having a very architectural day. One of the most vocal proponents of the man-made theory was Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus. After spending years diving and mapping the site, he became convinced it was artificial. He identified what he believed to be drainage channels, post holes for supporting wooden structures, and even a large stadium-like area with stone seating. He argued that the concentration of so many architectural features in one place makes a natural origin statistically improbable. It's one thing for nature to create one straight line, but to create a whole complex of them, complete with stairs and what looks like a plaza. That stretches the bounds of coincidence. And then there's the age. Geologists date the rock itself to be millions of years old, but the question is when it was last above sea level. Based on rising sea levels after the last ice age, if this structure was carved by humans, it would have to have been done at least 10,000 years ago. Let that sink in. The Great Pyramids of Giza are about 4,500 years old. Stonehenge is around 5,000 years old. If Yonaguni is a man-made monument, it would predate all known major civilizations by thousands of years. It would force us to completely rewrite our timeline of ancient history and accept that a sophisticated, stone-working culture existed in a period we typically associate with simple hunter-gatherer societies. As we reach the climax of our dive, let's focus on the most compelling and perhaps most controversial pieces of evidence that point towards a human touch. These are the formations that seem to go beyond simple geometry and into the realm of artistry and symbolism. Chief among them is a feature famously known as the turtle. It's a large, distinct rock formation that bears a striking resemblance to a giant sea turtle. The shape is so specific, with a clearly defined head, shell, and flippers, that many find it impossible to accept as a natural coincidence. Was this a deliberate carving, an effigy created by the people who built this underwater city? But it doesn't stop there. Divers have reported other intriguing finds. There are rocks with what appear to be carved faces, including one formation dubbed the Moai Head, reminiscent of the famous statues on Easter Island. Another discovery is a rock with what look like linear carvings or tool marks. While erosion can create lines, these appear different, more deliberate, as if etched by a tool. Kimura even claimed to have found rudimentary characters or symbols carved into the stone, suggesting a form of ancient writing. And let's reconsider those staircases. They are not just random ledges. The risers and treads are remarkably uniform in height and depth, just as you would expect from a functional staircase. It's this combination of large-scale architecture and small-scale detail that makes the man-made theory so powerful. If this is a lost city, its discovery would be on par with finding Troy or Machu Picchu. It suggests a chapter of human history has been completely submerged, not just by water, but from our collective memory. The implications are staggering. It would mean that long before Egypt and Mesopotamia, another great civilization flourished, with the skill and organization to build on a monumental scale, only to be wiped out by a catastrophic rise in sea level. The people of Yonaguni would be the original seafaring pioneers of monumental architecture. So, where does that leave us? We stand before a monumental riddle, locked away beneath the ocean. On one hand, we have the voice of geological science, offering a rational, albeit less romantic, explanation. A world of tectonic plates, fractures, and erosion, conspiring over millennia to create a fluke of nature that mimics human design. It's a solid, evidence-based argument that satisfies the principles of geology. On the other hand, we have the tantalizing evidence of our own eyes. The sharp angles, the grand stairways, the turtle-shaped rock, and the sheer, undeniable feeling of order and intelligence. This view presents a revolutionary idea. A human history is far older and more complex than we've ever imagined. Could the Yonaguni Monument be the missing link to a prehistoric super-civilization? Or is it simply a testament to the incredible power of our planet to create forms that trick our pattern-seeking brains? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe it was a natural formation that early inhabitants modified, carving into the existing rock to suit their purposes, a hybrid of nature's power and human ingenuity. As of today, the structure has not been officially recognized by the Japanese government as a cultural heritage site, and the academic world remains deeply divided. The mystery endures, waiting for the next discovery, the next piece of evidence that could finally tip the scales. As we fade out, with one last look at this silent underwater world, we are left to wonder. What do you believe is the true story of the Yonaguni Monument? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into one of the world's greatest mysteries. If you found this fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures into the unknown. Let us know your theories in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. See you next time.